So today, as Viola mentioned, we're going to go over the likelihood of Google AI overview from our research, how we're going to adjust, marketing and brand strategy in the face of Google's AI overview, and what content is looking like across all these AI platforms. To introduce, we are Flow. We do bespoke search marketing. We are now Flow Agency. You may know us as Flow SEO. Viola forgot to mention, we did go through a bit of a brand switch. So you will see our website has changed. It's flowagency.com instead of flowseo.com. But we are still the same. We just now offer more search marketing services. So definitely take a look at our new site. And yeah, let's dive into it. So we did this research earlier. Oh, it's already the end of July. So almost 2 months ago, we looked at about 5,000 keywords in HR and workforce management, specifically in the software space. We did a partnership with Ziptie.dev. You may or may not have seen them. They're one of the few tools out there that are allowing people to search and track and monitor whether AI overview is showing for a set of keywords or for your domain. So definitely shout out to them for supporting this research and allowing us to play with their tool. We had a lot of fun. So want to share what is AI overview before we even dive too much into it, because I know a lot of people who might be in the EU or outside the US are not seeing AI overview yet. And you're like, what on earth are you talking about? Everyone's talking about AI overview or SGE and what is this? Basically, it's a search feature that Google has launched. So in the US, it's primarily functioning at the moment. By the end of the year, it should be rolled out across the world. So we will see. There was a bit of backlash that happened about a month or so after the launch. So it's definitely been pulled back drastically. The data that we're going to look at is from early June, post Google pulling back after their release. So it's a bit more data that's correlating to what's happening today. But in the AI overview, you're going to see this little box that's at the top of your search results, and that is created through Google's AI. So what Google does is they combine their algorithm for ranking, and with Gemini, they create these AI overviews. They're experimental at the moment, but they are a feature. I think they're here to stay, and they're not going anywhere. So we're going to dig into that and how that affects your strategy. So when we took our keywords, we really wanted to see, not just does AI overview appear or not appear, we wanted to see a little bit more about what's going on there. So what we did is we compiled all the keywords we could through keyword research that we've done, client work, just dumps, AI, everybody was helping until we tried to hit almost 5,000 keywords. We also went through and decided on the user intent between bottom of funnel, top of funnel, free or comparative, and the number of words in the keyword. We also took the difficulty and the volume from Ahrefs so that we can get a little bit of a more complete picture of what's going on when we're looking at this set of keywords. And so probably the most interesting, we'll start with the likelihood of AI overview appearing by search intent. And so this is when we took those keywords, put them into Ziptie and said, does AI overview show up for this keyword or not? Top of the funnel keywords are the most vulnerable to AI overview. It showed 24% of the time. So bottom of funnel, this is what I'm most interested in personally. They actually benefited from only having it 5% of the time. So that means that 5% of the time, 5% of the keywords that we looked at had AI overview appear at the top of the results. And what that does is that it can shift those organic search results lower in the page. This is just taking that information and putting it more in a table so you can see. I really wanted to highlight something that we were very interested in doing this study, was doing that cross-section. So cross-section of the industry, cross-section of the search intent was really, really important. I do want to highlight that there's been a lot of interesting benchmarks that have happened, many of which happened in May 2024, and so ours was in June 2024. For example, Kevin Indig did a study looking at health queries and saw that AI overview showed 42% of the time. It's really, really high. Ziptie did their own study with e-commerce, and AI overview showed 16% of the time. SEO Clarity also did another one where some industries range from as low as 1%, whereas others up to 25%. And Alita Solis also did another one across a few different industries. So like B2B payments, we'll see 16%, and like top marketing software with 34%. So you could see it is all over the place. And we wanted to look, what are those things that maybe we can have a bit of control over and what's going on? And I think it's very, very important to understand when that data was run, because AI overview is changing very, very quickly, and understanding the industry of where that data came from, as well as that search intent. And I think that the search intent is going to be the really big key moving forward to understanding if AI overview is going to show or not. And I'm happy for everyone to challenge me on that. But I think I will die on that hill. Also, just to highlight the time-based relevance of your data, this is something that we've been looking at for, gosh, a really long time, probably over since SGE, which was originally Search Generative Experience, is what Google AI Overview was previously called. We did some research with bottom of funnel keywords, and we saw that SGE was appearing 64% of the time for bottom of funnel keywords. I was having a small heart attack. I did another check once AI Overview launched, and this was around in May, and it appeared for 7% of the queries. And so when we look at this, it's kind of mirroring similar to what we were seeing before. So 7% of the bottom of funnel, and here 5%. And so I'm really, really happy to see those changes, because it's a lot better than 64%. That is a lot of space being taken up on search results from AI generated content. So something else that we were able to see with this data inside Ziptie is understanding the domains that are listed. So basically what these two charts are telling us is that this is for the top of funnel keywords. The one on the left, the AI overview presence, these are the top 25 sites that appear in AI overview box at the top. And then the chart on the right is the organic presence. So that's the organic search results and how many different domains show. As we can see, for top of funnel keywords, there's actually more diversity and more sources included in the organic results. Whereas in the AI overview of top of funnel, Google prefers to stick with known entities. And we're going to talk a bit about an entity and how you can become one later. But as you can see, this red slot here, this is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is talked about almost 19% of the time in AI overview, whereas on the other side, LinkedIn in organic search results is only 5% of the time. And this story changes when we do the bottom of funnel keywords. And so I do say take this with a grain of salt. We only had about 5% of bottom of funnel keywords that had AI overview. So this is very limited data, but it is interesting to see that there's more diversity in the AI overview of bottom of funnel than there is for the organic presence. And so we also looked at a few other things to look at. Is AI overview, correlated with the keyword length was one of them. And so looking at short tail versus long tail keywords, what I mean by that, how many words are in the keyword? We did a very simple, does the keyword have one word? Does it have 8 words? And a lot of people were making assumptions that the longer tail keywords were least likely to have AI overview appear, contrary to common belief within our sector that we looked at with HR and workforce management. Doesn't really seem to do anything. So we definitely see that it's pretty stable across this. So it debunks that myth that, going for those very long tail specific keywords is going to reduce the likelihood of AI overview. We can see here that having 8 words versus 5 words is about the same, and even having 1 word. And then on that same note, when we're looking at keyword difficulty, so we looked at that and we saw that the higher the difficulty, the least likely AI overview was to appear. We have a bit of a sweet spot here between difficulty 70 and 79, where it appears 2% of the time. These are very competitive keywords. These are bottom of funnel keywords. Definitely just an interesting bit there when we're looking at keywords and thinking, if it has less difficulty or if it has less volume, if it has more words in it, like, is that going to change or affect how AI overview appears? And as we're seeing, the story is not really that strong against a lot of these metrics. Now, this one is keyword volume. And here I don't really see, I mean, personally, I don't see a strong correlation. I don't see anything that's like worth changing your strategy over when it comes to the keyword volume. I think AI overview is just as likely to show up regardless of your keyword volume, regardless of how short or long your keyword is. It's understanding search intent and user intent, I think, is the absolute key to understanding if AI overview will appear or not and how you adapt to that. And so with that, I kind of want to swing things over to Viola to talk a bit about Google AI Overview specifically and how we can appear there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Helene. And I think the question is, if LinkedIn constantly gets featured in Google's AI overview, that's all good and fair for LinkedIn. If Forbes is constantly used as a source in the AI overview, great for Forbes. But what does that mean for us that we are marketers at what I call the small content site? Most SaaS companies, most startups have a website that's maybe 1,000 pages, 2,000 pages, heavy in content, heavy on blogs. And so how do we make our way into the AI overview if it's so occupied by these big aggregator sites, big news sites, big brands? And so that's what I want to talk about in this section. So first, a quick screenshot out of Google's documentation where they talk about how AI overview currently works. And I've highlighted the section in blue that I think is most interesting for us today. And it tries to differentiate Google's AI overview versus other large language models. And it says, while AI overview are powered by a customized language model, the model is integrated with our core web ranking systems and designed to carry out traditional search tasks like identifying relevant high-quality results from our index. And I think this already tells you a bit of a difference. If you type the same keyword or the same questions into ChatGPT and Google, the answers will be slightly different. And we'll talk about that more later. And part of the reason is also that Google's obviously not throwing out 20 years of developing a ranking and web index based on relevance, but they're using that also as a foundation for the AI overview and kind of like, build off that. And with that, click, please. Next to the kind of like Google documentation is as a first start, there's another kind of like Google Search Essential, in which Google says Google's system automatically determine which links appear in Google's AI overview. There's nothing special for creators to do to be considered other than following our regular guidance for appearing in search as covered in the Google Search Essentials. Now, obviously, Google has been telling us that for years, just write relevant content and you'll rank. There's a little bit more to it, but they're basically saying as of today, there's not an obvious kind of like hack or trick to make it into AI overview or not, but they're trying to filter what they're always filtering for, which is high quality content. We did notice, however, that AI overview tends to lean heavily on what's currently already ranking well. Again, that's probably a correlation, not causation, but it seems more often than not, already being on page 1 is helpful in order to make it into the AI overview. So that doesn't mean you're on page 1 today, you will absolutely be in the AI overview. But if you're on page 1 today, you probably have a 50% chance, 60%, 70% chance to also make it into the AI overview. And so again, it makes sense that if Google has already categorized and prioritized the entire internet, that they're also like drawing off that. And so learning number 1 is doesn't hurt to already be organically ranking. And so if you're already like strong in SEO today, if you already have a lot of momentum, there's a chance you'll also be part of the AI overview. Now, the question is, if you're happy and you're part of the AI overview, are you part of the AI overview in a way that you want to be represented? So this is a screenshot from Google's search generative experience, like the beta version. Because as we learned, Google currently doesn't show a lot of AI overview for bottom of funnel keywords. And I think it also has to do that it doesn't always come out right. And so here I've asked it, shall we work with Viola for SEO consulting? I think the answer is quite all right. It says one reviewer says she's generous with her knowledge. She's a great practitioner. Would I have written the same thing about myself like this? Probably not. Do I think if a prospect reads this, they will be largely fine with it? Yes. We can see what were the sources for this AI overview. It was my author profile at Search Engine Land. Again, mega media news site aggregator, massive. Then it's our own website, and then it's my LinkedIn profile. So one of the assumption is if I can curate and underline these underlying sources and references, my description and the way I'm represented in my overview will be more aligned with my narrative. Not so lucky was one of our clients. If we see on the left side, again, that screenshot is a couple of months old from the Search Generative Experience, the beta version. It talks about BetterWorks as cloud-based human capital management software. Now, you might ask, why is this a problem? It is a problem because they've never been a cloud-based human capital management software. If anything, they started as an OKR software, so goals, objectives, and key results, a goal-setting software. They already rebranded in 2021, changed the category, and they've been fully leaning onto performance management software since. So imagine 3 years of positioning work, content creation, focusing on performance management software to then get spat out as cloud-based human capital management software. You're obviously not very stoked about this, especially because at the time this was showing up for their brand term on top of their organic ranking. And the source of that was an article on a website called TechTarget. I've marked that here on the left side with the arrow. Now, TechTarget is an SEO site. It's massive. It has reviews, it has listicle, it has blog posts, and it also has a page that was called What is BetterWorks? And in that page, it said BetterWorks is a cloud-based human capital management software. Google AI overview drew from that, and the problem started. Now, after, I want to say probably at least 6 months of chasing every editor and writer on TechTarget, our client managed to reach the CEO. How about that? And asked to update this page. TechTarget did update the page, and boom, within a matter of days, BetterWorks is now a company that creates performance management systems to help businesses improve employee engagement, retention, and motivation. Same TechTarget article as the underlying source, very different representation in the AI overview. So the learning here is, number one, already ranking organically probably helps to make it into the organic overview, but you want to control the sources of the AI overview, and you want to update the underlying sources. I think we can click to the next slide. It basically means your LinkedIn page, very easy to update. Your Crunchbase, your G2, your Capterra, very easy to update. A site like TechTarget, harder to update, more effort, but not impossible. And so you want to make sure that these sources that are being used, draw the right information, they're all aligned. Now, what that all comes down to is, does Google understand your brand as an entity? An entity is a thing or concept that is singular, unique, and well-defined. So Google's knowledge graph is basically a repository of entities and their relationship to each other. And on the next slide, we have a few examples. An entity might be a person. It might be a place, let's say Berlin or the Brandenburg Gate. It might be things or products. It could be events or organizations. One of my favorite entities is the character Rey from Star Wars. And we can see that Google understands her quite well. It understands that, she's a fictional character within the Star Wars universe. It understands the relationship to the actresses that played her. It understands the relationship to the entities that are the different movies in which she appears. And it also understands that people are interested in understanding about her force, or whether she's a Jedi, or even if she has a boyfriend and who it is. And so this is basically best case scenario where Google has a very good landscape and understanding of these different entities, fictional character, actress, movie, relationships within the movie and can map it accordingly. So best case scenario, Google starts to understand ourselves and our brand and product in the same way. Click. Here is Google understanding who I am. And with that, click. There's many things to say about building a strong brand, and we will talk more about the complicated part, like being featured on the right websites. One thing that you can definitely do and that you can own and that you control, and that I think Helene has been teaching me and telling me since the day I met her, is you need schema markup. So schema markup or structured data is a way to connect the dots between your website, social profiles, and mentions. Very simply put, I did not have that beautiful big knowledge panel with my face. We added schema markup to our website saying, this is Viola, these are all her profiles, this is where she's writing. Boom, I got it. So basically, it's an opportunity to become a credible source and show subject matter expertise. And so if you don't have, let's say, organization schema or software schema on your homepage, if you don't have author schema for your people, this is your call to do so. And just really, in a mess of a bunch of people having the same names and all that, make sure Google understands who you are and what belongs together. Learning number 3, if you want to be understood as an entity by Google and large language models as a whole. And another way to say that is the reason why LinkedIn and Forbes constantly get pulled into AI overview is because they're very strong brands and they're very strong entities. And so you're probably not going to become the next Forbes, but you can become the next authority and the next well-recognized brand in your niche and focus. Which leads me to the more difficult part. I think adding schema markup to your website, you know, that's a matter of having an eloquent conversation with ChatGPT and generate the schema markup and then passing it to your developer. It gets more complicated is that section of ensuring how other people talk about you. And that's kind of what we've hinted at with the whole BetterWorks human capital management software example is. It doesn't just matter how we talk about ourselves, it also matters how other people talk about us. So as SEOs, obviously, I love content, I love our blog content and the things, but that's just one part of the equation. As important is how everyone else talks about us on the web. Now, different people have called this different ways. So my friend Alex Birkett, when he was at HubSpot, he used to call this surround sound SEO. Nick Eubanks, a very well-known SEO, calls it SERP monopoly. Rand Fishkin has been going on about this for probably at least 10 years, calling it on SERP SEO. But the message is, on Google search results, you typically own one blue link, one organic link, but you want to be present in all the SERP features. You want to be present in the web, in the listicles that talk about performance management software. You want to be in G2 and Capterra in the category for performance management software. You want your Crunchbase up to date. You want your LinkedIn page, your YouTube channel. You want to have an alignment across all these different web properties that you own to varying degrees. So if we pop into the next slide is an example of MailChimp. So if you type email marketing software into Google, you can see an ad for MailChimp. If an AI overview appears, that's the screenshot on the top right. MailChimp is listed. In the related searches, MailChimp has a good big logo. I also love, by the way, how they're the only logo with a yellow background. So it like really pops out. Everyone else just has transparent background and the logo is barely like noticeable. They just have the big yellow one. It's just like, you can't miss it. But then even though if you choose to click none of these things and you choose to click on the listicle by Forbes and Zapier, guess who's on there? MailChimp. So the point is, if people are making a buying decision, if people are building a consideration set, if people are trying to figure out which email marketing software should I choose, there's no way to get around MailChimp. Now you might ask Gabby, who's here on the phone with us, if you're trying to make a good layout and try to have a good looking newsletter, MailChimp is not the choice to make. But at this point, we don't know that yet. We just know we need to consider MailChimp and we need to put that on our consideration set as email marketing software. And so click. The call is here is, let's think about SEO a little bit broader. So in kind of like dark green, we have the web properties that we own and then we can control. So that's our own startup homepage, our product pages, our blogs. yes, we need to align with different teams and, people from product marketing or, with the kind of like leadership team. But generally speaking, we're able to make changes to our website and we are able to have an aligned narrative across homepage, product pages, and blogs. This might also mean that you want to clean out all the blogs that you've written in 2015 and that are underperforming anyway. Now that AI overview is starting to surface this stuff again, it's your sign to kind of like prune a lot of this stuff. So dark green are the properties that you own and that you can control. And you want to make sure they are aligned and you're talking about yourself in the same way. I'm a performance management software. I'm an onboarding software. I'm a workforce management software. We want alignment across them. And kind of like neon green, we have the social profiles that you own and control. Crunchbase, YouTube, LinkedIn, these should be profiles that hopefully someone in your company has a login to, and you can just go in and update the name, the description, and the underlying links. And then in orange, we have the properties that we can partly control. We can control in G2 and Capterra, we can control the description, we can control the category we in. We can typically not directly control the actual reviews on these pages. And so that's a bit more tricky. The next layer of trickiness is kind of like the purple boxes, which is everything that broadly falls under outreach, digital PR, and link building. So making sure that you're mentioned in listicles, best onboarding software, you want to be on there. But then also make sure you're speaking with your digital PR team, making sure that media appearances, founders interviews, podcasts, webinars, etc. Again, these are things where we're progressively losing control, but these are spaces where other people talk about us, and we want to make sure they talk about us in a way that's aligned with our narrative. And then blue is probably the one that's the most unhinged, is forums and user-generated content. Both Google and OpenAI have a partnership with Reddit to use Reddit to train their language models. Quora is surfacing a lot since Google is surfacing the new forums and discussion SERP feature. And so our favorite example, if you don't want a pricing page because sales doesn't want to reveal the pricing before having a sales meeting, just rest assured someone has asked on Reddit, what does XYZ software cost? And someone has answered that question on Reddit. And the question is, are you happy with that answer? And is that answer up to date? And is it aligned? And so whenever we have something that is gated, whenever we have something hiding behind sales, just rest assured someone has asked the question on Reddit and Quora and someone has answered. And you only have very loosely control over how these conversations go. But yet, kind of like caveat is, it seems Google is currently not pulling a lot of Quora and Reddit into the AI overview, which is probably a reaction to all the kind of like, Google recommending you to put glue on your pizza and these sort of things. Like Reddit can be pretty wild and a lot of sarcasm. And when it pulled a lot of in there and get a lot of backlash for it. But we do see a lot of like Quora and Reddit on the classic search results. So the learning is, I walked us through that. So that's just for reference. The learning is, I think SEO is often such a parallel street of like, we're publishing blog posts here, but we're not really talking to the broader marketing organization. And I think the call is here, review sites, that's probably a collaboration with product marketing and customer success. Digital PR, that's probably a collaboration with your digital PR team, maybe the founders, and just integrating that alignment across the entire web more holistically into your marketing strategy. And so all the SEO things that we do are now wrapped into a layer of brand marketing. Here's kind of like the claim. With all of this is it the end of search? Probably not. Is the way we search dramatically changing? Yes. Is search getting a lot more diversified? Are people using search very differently than before? Yes. Are people using more tools for search than before? Yes. And we're going to show you how. So I think we are at an inflection point as far as search marketing goes. User behavior is changing dramatically. The internet is obviously flooded with AI generated content. So that question of surfacing relevant content is actually more important than ever before, just because there's 10x more spam out there in the last 2 years. And so the question is, as someone who believes that search is a great channel to both capture demand and generate demand, what do we do and how do we proceed? And we basically proceed with the 4 learnings that I just shared. We want to integrate our search marketing into our overall marketing and go-to-market strategy. We want to make sure we have one aligned narrative. We want to be human and focus on uniqueness, expertise, and story. Now, that's not to say that we can't use AI tools. We all love AI tools. And to be honest, it's an unrealistic expectation that you're not going to be using them. We all have budget cuts. We all get our teams cut in half. I understand. So yes, use AI tools. But if you're spinning up the same copycat content as all of your competitors are, that's not a long-term sustainable advantage. So drawing onto your subject matter experts is where you want to go. Experience and high quality content in all formats, and holistic, considering all your web properties, not just your own website for AI-powered search. And with that, I feel like I talked myself into kind of like a rage mode here. Helene, I think I'm heading over to you to 1, breathe, and 2, talk about the future of search beyond just Google. Because if this wasn't just complex yet, you ain't seen nothing yet, as Helene is going to talk you through all the way people find information today.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish I had a very positive story to share here. I think this is basically, let's get this conversation started, because it's about to get very complicated. Even as Viola mentioned, I used to always say, Google it. And now I say GPT it. I legitimately say this, and I legitimately use it as a search engine all the time. And I work in search, so that's concerning. If I'm doing that, other people are definitely using lots of different platforms. And not just which platform? There are so many, and they are not the same. So we're going to show a little example using the keyword workforce optimization software. And so this is a screenshot of results in the US from Ahrefs. It was just, I can get all 10 results in one screenshot, basically, instead of using the search results page. I wanted to know what was listed here. As we can see, the first one is a listicle, TechTarget. They love to be a nice listicle there. And actually, all the rest of them are product pages besides Bridget, which has a blog post. Very like, what is workforce optimization? So we have a small bit of mixed intent here, but definitely bottom of funnel, because it's almost all bottom of funnel product pages. And so this is what we see in Google search results. Now, if we will use Google's AI overview and we look up workforce optimization software, it's going to give us this little box up here. And you might notice that the 2 links that they offer at the top is AI HR and ServiceNow. Was a bit shocked to see ServiceNow, but I guess it makes sense. They have a lot of articles for top of funnel, but that's not the first thing that would come to mind when thinking about workforce optimization software. And then you'll see ADP, Bamboo, HR, and UKG. Very big names. The other ones also listed there, very big names. But you might remember that they're not listed in those Google search results. Where are they from? Because these are also not listed in the TechTarget article, because that was my first assumption, is that they would be inside the TechTarget article. No, they're not. And so we have to try to trace down, where is Google pulling these things from? Then we go into Google's Gemini, and we're like, hey, I can also ask you, what is the, workforce optimization software options out there? And they do a really good job at, sharing by industry and like kind of breaking it down, giving me a little bit more information. But we can see here, I have little stars. Those are mine. That's not what Gemini's doing. So 4 of these are from Google's organic results. And as you'll see here, Kronos is actually UKG. It was they acquired them, I believe. And so if you try to go to Kronos, it's UKG. They were in the AI overview. So we can see from Gemini, all of these were either pulled from the AI overview or the search results. Okay, so we're like, all right, that makes sense. It's in that ecosystem and we're good. Let's move over to ChatGPT and say, can you recommend workforce optimization software? Now we have a whole new list of brands. And one of them here, Workday, was in the organic results. And once again, we have Kronos for UKG. basically someone there probably needs to get on their branding because they have a lot of split branding going on in all of these GPTs. But you'll see that these other ones, they were not listed anywhere else. No idea where ChatGPT is getting these from. So then we're going to dig a little deeper. Go into the Bing search results because Bing is definitely on the rise when we're thinking about B2B software purchasing decisions. It's really not smart to exclude Bing from that conversation. I probably see about 20 to 30% of organic clicks coming from Bing these days. A lot of that having to do with security features, individuals having to use, Microsoft Teams at work and then being restricted to using Microsoft Bing for their search. So was interested to go here and to see what was going on. They have like their chaos going on here. I will say I didn't expect so many features to be kind of in my face and lots of different sources being shown here. But you'll see that you're not seeing the same brands once again. We see a little bit of them in their little featured snippet, but overall it's very different. If we go into Copilot, we can see once again it is different. These four were actually from the TechTarget article, but all of them were listed in Bing. So I believe that Copilot definitely is pulling from Bing. And so we can make this connection. So when you're thinking about the different search engines and their respective AI search or AI model or whatever it is, there's definitely, you can see some relationships going on between that. Fortunately, Bing is having their own search generative experience coming soon. I think this dropped about today or yesterday. And so we're going to see even more features in Bing. And at the top here and down, you'll see on the left side of the screen, this is all sort of AI generated. And the organic search results are on the right side of the page in a small sort of panel. I think that's a very interesting, very different approach to integrating AI into search. So that will be something we'll be looking at moving forward. Two more models to show you, very sorry, but I do want to show you how complicated it is. You would think, okay, these are all the same models and it's all basically the same thing. They're not. They are recommending different brands. They're answering differently. And so understanding where that information comes from is really important. Perplexity, we can see here these sources. None of those sources were listed in Google's top results of organic. Two of the choices that we see here, sorry, where did I have they were listed in the TechTarget article. That was the only way that I could trace those, but it wasn't listed as something as a source here. Claude decided to go very formal when I asked it to recommend, and it asked me for more information. I thought it was very sweet that it just didn't want to make assumptions about what would work best for me. And it said, hey, can you tell me more about, and I just said, hey, just give me the regular, whatever you're going to tell, generic responses. And here we could see every single one of these was pulled from the TechTarget article, pretty much. So we can really, really see in these models how the entire ecosystem of the internet, all of these models for AI, search algorithms are deeply connected. And I wanted to sort of, open up that discussion of, how do you feel when you see this? How are you monitoring this for your clients? Are you worried about it? Are you using it? Are you not using it? I think that it's becoming a very, very diverse landscape for search, and it's only going to get more complicated from here. And I think that the only way all of us will survive is if we can share as much as we can in this moment with one another so that we can try and learn and figure it out and do our jobs better.
Amazing. Love it. Thank you so much, Helene. Every one of you who's listening, if you're feeling adventurous, feel free to pop in your camera and, ask a question. If you're not feeling as adventurous, question in the group chat will do as well. But, one thing that stood out to me, and this is absolutely not intentional, is omnipresence of TechTarget. This is a website that I, up until 6 months ago, was fairly unfamiliar with and never really paid attention to. But now, Angela and Boban, that you're hearing this, let's become friends with these guys. Because apparently Google is really liking them right now. And they obviously have very, very strong SEO and a strong domain rating and domain authority. And so I'm kind of, it's like funny because again, this was unintentional, but they kept popping up for both of us over and over again. And so the learning here is, I suppose, let's make sure you know these people, are friends with these, and know how to edit your pages on there.
Yeah.
Helene, I'm kind of curious, how has, if any, AI overview changed your day-to-day work so far?
Has it changed my day-to-day work? It's definitely got me thinking a bit more deeply about the content that I recommend for clients to produce. It's very difficult dealing with AI overview. If you're doing a very top of funnel query for your content, and it's like, what is time tracking? What is time tracking is going to be very, very difficult, not only to rank, but also to show up in AI overview. Some very interesting studies were done that while Google states there's more click through and meaningful clicks through AI overview, a lot of this data shows that it's only if you're the first link. If you're not the first link in AI overview, you will not really see an increase, in clicks. You're going to see a big increase in impressions, but in terms of clicks, no. So getting creative, thinking about how can I really speak to the audience instead of, what is time tracking, how to do shift scheduling for hospitals or something. It's like taking that topic and really like twisting it in the most specific way to the audience. And I think like being very, very intentional about creating content, that's probably what changed the most for me. What do you
Nice.
think for you?
Well, I want to respond to one thing what you said is that it seems that the clicks only go to the one source. And I think Google always has been kind of like a winner takes it all game, right? The old joke of like, there's no better place to hide a dead body than on page 2 of Google. Now it's even like there's no better place to hide a dead body than in second source of the AI overview, right? So Google has always been a winner takes it all kind of game, but even more so today. And I think where I'm at is also, I never really used to value impressions. I used to think of impressions as some sort of like vanity metrics, similar to followers or so. And I think I'm really changing my opinion on that because of that idea of we want to be present on search no matter the search features. So talking about that MailChimp email marketing example, it does matter that they're featured everywhere. They're in the ads, they're in the images, their logo stands out in a really, really cool way. And so I'm basically in a world where anyway, in a world of like zero click, like LinkedIn doesn't want us to leave LinkedIn. Instagram doesn't want us to leave Instagram. Is like, I think Google is becoming more like other social media platforms in the sense that it's becoming more and more a zero click environment. And so these impressions really start to matter because if you don't have these impressions, like no one is seeing you and no one really feels like you're around. And so I think in all of that, I'm having a newfound appreciation for impressions, and I feel a bit sorry for having disregarded them for the last 2 years. And now I'm like, okay, we gotta make it work together. I see a great question in the chat, and I actually absolutely love it. The question is, what if AI overview builds summaries from its training data? If so, is it possible to change the AI overview answer? And so the way I think about this is I'm not exactly sure if this is 100% an AI overview problem because I think it also pulls a lot from the search results. And by changing the underlying search results, we can change the AI answer. And we've done that and we've proven that. I think this is a great question for also ChatGPT and others, because what I notice is if I ask ChatGPT, what is workforce optimization software, I get very different results than when I ask ChatGPT, answer this question, use the internet and answer what is best workforce optimization software. So with ChatGPT and some of these tools and the training data set, I feel like the pain for me is much higher. And so I don't even know that I have a good answer to that. But Helene, I'm kind of curious if anything, Helene or anyone else really, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, what if AI overview builds summaries from its training data? I mean, it was trained. So it's already trained and it's continued to train. AI overview specifically has a very unique tech structure in the fact that it's combining Google's algorithm with AI, which makes it unique. Unfortunately, we cannot change the answers. I think you can give it a little thumbs down and maybe give some feedback, just the same as you would with like a featured snippet. That has the same. You can give feedback. You can give feedback on a knowledge panel, any of the search features. You can submit if something is incorrect. And I've gotten things changed doing that way. Once there was the incorrect flag for Slovenia. If you looked up a Slovenian flag and it pulled like a very odd flag into the featured snippet, and I reported it to Google and it was updated. So they do check these things. I've also updated how to get to my house because Google Maps was doing it wrong. So Google there's someone there. So if you see these things in search and you're like, that's not right, just click the report and send in a report. But yeah, just as Viola said, just making sure the way you're talking about yourself and how others are talking about you is how you want to be represented. It's really, really about your reputation. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that as we when you grow up, your reputation can be destroyed very quickly. It's very hard to build, but it can be destroyed very quickly. This is a case where you want to clean up. You want to clean up house. You want to remove that old content. You want to try to get like, if you have a bunch of reviews that are maybe not that great and you never responded to them and that's all you have on your Google My Business profiles, like 5 bad reviews and no response, like these are things that maybe before didn't matter, but they do matter now because now that the internet is smarter, his models are smarter, everything is getting connected, and it's only going to become more and more.
Exactly. And it's becoming more and more real time. I think the real problem was, I think maybe like a year ago when ChatGPT only had the set that went until 2021. And then maybe you founded your company in 2022 and it didn't know about you. But I think that's getting more and more real time. Like that, like I think moving forward, I don't anticipate that to be an issue. I think that was a matter of the model and the bandwidth and how these were rolled out, but I think that like over time this will be more and more real time. And so that chart that we kind of had with that kind of like spider web of all the different web properties, that's really top of mind for me. And it's ironic because I never wanted to go into local SEO because local SEO was always about updating all the directories and the Yelps and all that stuff. And I never really enjoyed that. And here we are. We're now doing it for software startups that are purely digital, and we're making sure that our names are spelled correctly, the logos are updated correctly. Also means that every rebrand is a lot of work right now, is making sure we remove you kind of like old logos, old images, old colors, old messaging, not just from your own website, but across the web. It's always been a mission, but it for sure is now because now that stuff is coming out again.
Yeah. True.
Helena, I'm kind of curious. You're obviously doing a lot of content strategy. You're picking topics. You're doing keyword research for clients. And so I'm kind of curious, what's the role of AI overview, whether it's there or not, in your keyword research and content idea process? Do you pay attention to it? How do you factor it in?
Yeah. I definitely use AI to help me brainstorm. I'll ask him questions. I'll be like, hey, I want to create content for this very, very specific audience in this very, very specific moment. Someone who is working in a large, the HR department of a electric company wants to change their software for job management, or thinking, what are the ways that they talk about job management, or even the time tracking example. Time tracking is a very broad thing, but in each audience, it's very specific. And asking, ChatGPT these questions, like how do they talk about it? What questions are the most important to them? What's most interesting? Or I will drop a bunch of keywords and ideas and say, hey, can you expand on this in a new way? Or can you try to find gaps? Like I'm usually just asking it, like, can you find gaps in what I'm thinking? Because it's sort of like a second set of eyes that I don't have to bother anybody else. And then it just does it in 1 second, like, hey, you missed this and this. And so I definitely find even the AI tool for keyword research and Ahrefs, I think is fantastic. It's so great to just like put in an idea and bam, a bunch of keywords. And so in that sense, or building custom GPTs to create content outlines, like AI has definitely made content creation, I think, so much easier. But yeah, it's just so much information all at once. So it's easy to get overwhelmed by all of it. But it's definitely made it, I think, a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. I can get a lot more data than I used to be able to much faster.
I'm kind of curious. So, with your process, imagine you're surfacing a topic and it's a really good topic. Let's say time tracking for construction and overtime pays. And you're like, yeah, the audience love this. My client confirmed, the people at the trade shows constantly asking about this. You can see people on Reddit. You're like, absolutely sure. We need to have this blog post. Now you type it into Google and then there's an AI overview on the top and it takes up a lot of space. Do you still write the topic? Yes or no?
Yeah. If the topic is like it's too good, like it's just it has to happen. I mean, if I'm set on a topic and I'm like, no, this is perfect, like it checks all the boxes, I think at the end of the day, the way I decide on content is way more human than thinking about the algorithm. It's thinking about what the humans want. In the last year, I've even seen, content topics that have zero search volume in Ahrefs, but they're getting consistent organic traffic every month. So there's a lot of ideas and things out there that people are searching for, but we might not know it yet.
Nice. And just an easy one for the end because we're 5 minutes out. So let's ask the kind of like multi-million-dollar question is search is changing rapidly, right? We're being flooded by AI content. Google is putting AI overview on the top. Search is getting more and more fragmented. People are using all of these tools. Now, your organic traffic might be declining or it might be stagnating. Your impressions are through the roof. And CMO and CEO are very curious as to is our content strategy still working, and do we have a good plan for this new world of searching? How do we present all these radical changes to executives?
Gosh. I don't think that it has to be a radical change. I think it can be a very slow, like sustainable change that makes sense. And I feel like I've been doing this in my work by slowly introducing, the ideas of doing more, I don't know what we want to call it, like very, very specific content. I've been bad mouthing glossaries for the past month. I do apologize. I love a good glossary, but glossaries I feel are going to get almost zero traffic in the coming days. Like I would tell an executive that doing a glossary today is a big mistake. All of the creation of that content, the cost for writing all of those, any images that need made, all the time required is just going to give them a lot of impressions and maybe a couple clicks. Whereas maybe that worked 2 years ago, it's not the story now. And I think that's just how it's been with SEO. 4 years ago, everyone was doing, very programmatic SEO. And then they tried to do it again last year when AI popped out. And it's like these waves of trends. So I think just reminding yourself there's human on the other side of the screen and creating content for that human is the best way to create a sustainable strategy so that you're not every 2 years going into your site and deleting 100 blog posts because they're not relevant anymore. And that's money wasted. That's time wasted. So being very intentional and careful about your content, I think, to create a sustainable strategy that doesn't turn on and turn off whenever it wants.
I love that. And it's one of these like odd ones where it's like in a way it's like going back to the basis, like who are we doing this for? What are the needs? What do these people want? What are the questions we're trying to answer? And how can we answer them in a meaningful way? Luckily, never gets old. And then kind of like is the past is the future and is so often forgotten in a kind of like a haze of technological changes and quick wins and hacks and playbooks. All right, we're on the hour. I feel like Helene and I could probably stay online for another 3 and talk about this. But for this webinar, I think we're closing it out. Please stay in touch. You can read and see Helene and my emails here. It's our real emails. You can also email Helene or message Helene and me on LinkedIn and get a real answer back. So yeah, would love to hear from you. Would love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what you're working on, what's working, what's not working, where are you heading. It's a good time for sharing and collaborating and sharing experiences, as Helene said earlier, because yeah, it's a whole new world in search right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helene.
Thank you.